Hello everybody. You may not know me. My name is Amelia, and I'm here to talk to you about troll biology, specifically the trolls of Andrew Hussey's hit webcomic Homestuck. And no, this is not that kind of biological discussion. And you may be asking yourself, who the hell are you? What qualifies you to talk about this? I mean, I've got this lab coat. I look super official, except psych, this isn't my lab coat. This is actually my mom's lab coat. She's a midwife. I do have a lab coat from my chem lab, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, I'm not actually qualified for this. No one can be qualified in xenobiology. Unless they can? I don't know. Maybe they can. That would be cool. But no, I'm not qualified to discuss a fictional Homestuck alien because that's not a real thing. You can't be Professor Homestuck, sadly. But what I do have to my name is about 2 years in undergrad for a biology degree, some time spent working in an ant-ecology lab, and teenagehood full of burning passion for Homestuck. Hello. Welcome to the Real Shit Corner. Basically, this is my disclaimer that I'm not a scientist. I'm just like a biology undergrad, so I might say some shit that's wrong. I also haven't read Homestuck since high school, so feel free to be the Homestuck police in the comments or whatever. I tried to check wikis and discuss with my friends who actually remember Homestuck. Thank you, Morgan. But yeah. Enjoy. Cool. I'm gonna take off this lab coat now, since you know it's a sham. And it's slippery on this staircase I'm filming on for the lighting. So, the main focus of this video is going to be viewing trolls through the lens of eusocial insects, as well as kind of a deeper dive into troll reproduction. Again, not talking about their junk. But since it's such a hot topic on Earthsea in the epilogues, I thought I would try and pick it apart a little bit. So, to kick things off, let's discuss what eusocial insects are in the first place. Eusocial insects are insects that have a high level of sociality, basically the highest level. They live in a colony consisting of multiple generations of adults. They do cooperative brood care, and kind of the most defining feature is their... Sorry, I live in a city. There's noises. There's nothing that can be done. Okay, so their most defining feature is their separation into castes, or castes. I don't know how to pronounce it. Into castes based on whether or not they are non-reproductive or reproductive. The most classic example, and also the most well-studied example, is the insect order of Hymenoptera, which you would know as bees, ants, and wasps. So I worked in an ant lab, so I generally speaking know the most about ants, so that's probably what I'll be referencing throughout the video. So the simplest version of this caste structure is each colony will have a queen, which is the reproductive female, non-reproductive females, which make up the majority of the colony, and drones, which are reproductive males. Alright, here's another warning. So I'm going to be using the terms male and female to describe exclusively whether or not the organism lays an egg or fertilizes an egg. I know this is kind of dicey, politically speaking, but that's literally all I mean by it. And to any biological essentialists out there, fuck off. Just fuck right off. Trans rights. What's also usually true about these kinds of eusocial insects is they have what we call haplodiploidy. Haplodiploidy. They have haplodiploidy. So just looking at this basic structure, the queen worker drone structure, you might be like, is Condis the queen? and the rest of the trolls the workers, but that doesn't really work because she doesn't lay eggs. She's just like the rest of the trolls, basically, biologically speaking. So actually, the mother grub is just also the same species as the trolls. That makes sense because there's no other reason she'd be able to interbreed with them unless trolls were some kind of weird parasitic wasp, which I don't think they are. And then she wouldn't actually be breeding with them. Anyway, I'm not going to get into parasitic wasps. I would love to get into parasitic wasps with you, but I'm not gonna. So, the mother grub is the queen. So if the mother grub's the queen, does that make the trolls the workers? Well, no. And the reason for that is the reproductive system that eusocial insects generally use, which is haplodiploidy. Yeah. So that's a big jargony scientific word, which honestly, I barely knew what it meant until I worked in an ant lab and stuff. So I'm gonna do my best to explain it. Let's get a picture up. So in a typical ant bee colony, unlike humans, sex is not determined by whether you have XX chromosomes or XY chromosomes. It's actually determined by how many sets of chromosomes you have. So all males only have one set of chromosomes, meaning they are haploid, while all females are diploid, meaning they have two sets of chromosomes. And so if all males are haploid, all females are diploid. And then if you feed a female like a royal jelly, which is it is able to develop the correct reproductive structures to be a reproductive female instead of just a non-reproductive worker. So if you're looking at homestuck, if you're looking at trolls, we know that trolls mate. Doesn't matter gender. They produce some kind of slime that gets sent in pails to the mother grub, which is then used to fertilize her eggs, and then what hatches from those fertilized eggs is more trolls. Now, it wouldn't really make sense for those trolls to be haploid then. So they'd have to be diploid. So that makes the mother grub instead haploid. So this is what it's basically a sort of weird reverse haploid diploidy, and we actually have evidence within the comic for this, where Cania's lucius is a virgin mother grub, and when you cut her open and take an unfertilized egg out, you can then hatch another mother grub from that. And so if it's unfertilized, it must be a haploid egg. So we've solved it. We've solved the haploid diploidy puzzles, where all trolls are diploid males, and all female trolls are haploid females, and either they can remain infertile and they can go be a luscious for some jade blood or whatever, or they can be fertilized and become a reproductive female mother grub. I'm not going to get into why trolls have different blood colors. I don't know. What I will say to that effect is worker caste ants will often have pretty extreme morphological differences depending on what subcaste they are, if they're a soldier or a normal worker. So that might explain why some trolls have really short lifespans, some trolls live really long, depending on their blood type, or depends how strong they are physically or their psychic powers or whatnot. You'll see pretty extreme life expectancies between a queen and a drone. Queens can live many years, drones can live a much, much shorter life. So yeah, that's my best guess as to why it's like that. So we've solved the haploid diploidy puzzle. Yay! But Amelia, if all the trolls we see running around are male, why do they have a sort of binary gender system of male and female, or, girl and boy trolls? And the answer, there's a couple answers for that. The doylist answer is Homestuck is a comic written by Andrew Hussey, a human man from Earth, from Massachusetts specifically. So he's just applying the gender system he's used to, accustomed to trolls. And then the Watsonian answer, which is what I'm more interested in, what this video is about. It's all about Watsonian xenobiology. Is that there's two theories. The first theory is something my friend Morgan came up with, the Lucius gender theory, where trolls are raised by these other organisms. They have a mutualism where the trolls act as a sort of zookeeper for the Lucius, make sure they're fed and taken care of, and then the Lucius in turn raises them and protects them. So we can make an assumption that these Lucius species, seems like there's multiple of them, are sexually dimorphic, and that because we see all the trolls match the gender of the Lucius that raised them, we can be like, okay, they just mimic the gender of whatever Lucius raised them, which makes a certain amount of sense. But that also kind of falls apart when you remember Bephoris, which was pre-Scratch Alternia, where trolls were not raised by Luci, they were raised by other trolls, and other trolls also are all the same, like, sex, they're all male. So there was some talk in the epilogues between Calliope and Roxy, where Caliborn was really obsessed with human masculinity, and so she adopted human femininity, and then that got all over Paradox Space, and that's why there's the gender binary system on Earth in Alternia. Honestly, I don't really know, but, you know, food for thought. So, moving along to the big name topic of discussion in the Earthsea election is troll reproduction. Specifically, while Jane may not know it, she's basically arguing a sort of theory that humans are a K-selected species and trolls are an R-selected species. Let me explain what that means. So, K versus R selection is terminology in ecology where to describe the reproductive strategies of different species. So, R-selected species, their strategy is to have a lot of offspring and put little energy into each individual offspring and hope that a couple survive. The K reproductive strategy is have few offspring, put a lot of energy into making sure those few offspring that you do have survive. So mice are an R-selected species, whales are a K-selected species. What Jane thinks, aside from just being, a fascist, is that trolls are an R-selected species. It makes sense given what we know about Alternia, where reproduction was mandatory. The mother grub laid thousands of eggs, then those grubs would be put through the grub trials, which would cull off all of the weak and whatever, and then they'd go be raised by animals on Alternia, which is also not the greatest place to try and survive your childhood. So that's classic sort of R selection strategy. What this also doesn't take into account is Bephoris, where trolls were not raised by Luci. They were raised by other trolls. Presumably the grub trials were not in effect there. And I don't think there was any talk of Bephoris having some overpopulation problem or something. So we can presume that without grub trials making mandatory reproduction necessary, that trolls don't actually reproduce naturally in that way. Also, we know that Doc Scratch purposefully manipulated the culture of Alternia to make it that way and make it a more vicious, kill or be killed culture. Yeah, also, just thought I'd mention, another sort of hint, I don't know, factor that indicates trolls are a K-selected species is their prolonged adolescence. Trolls are pretty helpless, or I guess they go through the drip trials, but they have a prolonged adolescence, or it takes them a long time to mature. They're children for a long time, just like humans, which is a sign of a K-selected species. The sooner something matures and becomes independent, the sooner that parent can just send it off. So K-selected species, generally speaking, have long childhoods. So, trolls are a K-selected species, just like humans. And not that this actually means anything to fascists. Alright, last real shit thing. This is just an aside. Having fun here discussing xenobiology and K versus R selection and haploid-diploidy and all of that fun stuff. But overpopulation and this kind of discussion applied to, like, human beings, huge fascist dog whistle. If you see anyone arguing for population control, they're an eco-fascist. Usually all it is a way for them to push agendas to sterilize people of color, especially in developing nations where they have honestly a way less impactful carbon footprint than, an American, someone from England. So, and no one's pushing to population control the fucking English. So if you hear that kind of shit, say the fuck no. Say no to eugenics! Yay! Seriously, do not do eugenics, kids. Yeah, that about wraps everything up. Some fun facts, just for those interested in fun facts, just things that I noticed. Trolls are allergic to onions, just like dogs and cats and basically everything but humans, which I think is funny, Humans can have a little poison. Trolls, for whatever reason, have a depressant effect from soda. I don't know if it's the sugar content or the carbonation or whatever, or maybe Fago and Alternia is just fucked up. But I doubt it's the sugar content, because you do see Karkat eating chocolate-covered beetles in the epilogue, so maybe that's not enough? Who knows? Also, I think that trolls might have a parasympathetic nervous response to, like, a shoosh pap, a touch on the cheek, forces them to, like, basically go limp. We see this with Karkat and his shoosh paps. Actually, I thought it was something I thought of when Dave kissed Karkat on the cheek and Karkat just, like, goes limp. Might be the reason Moirails work. It might just be how, humans are also a little like that, but not to that extreme. Yeah. Thank you everyone so much for watching this weird video I've made. Thank you to my friend Morgan for being my sounding board for this whole video and making sure that it's hopefully comprehensible to people who don't know anything about biology, and also for coming up with the luscious gender theory. Yeah. You can like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Honestly, I leave for the rainforest in a couple days and won't have Wi-Fi, so I won't be making videos until at the earliest May. Yeah. Thanks for watching.